I am interested quite a lot as well to see Seiko's not only anti-weapon tech, but also he has the initiates, the neophytes in his Demon Hunter list as a two of, which I think is pretty interesting. Again, the cult neophytes, sorry, not the initiates. I think it's really interesting because Demon Hunter again has so many different builds at the moment, and Cult Neophyte is a good card. Maybe because he's only running one sticky finger as well. Maybe the Cult Neophyte gives him the edge in that matchup we seem to be discussing a lot right now, which is the Demon Hunter Mage matchup, which is so close. But we'll have to maybe see if that comes into play a little bit later on. Because for now, we're kicking off our first game. Thijs on the bottom is going to be on his Demon Hunter, and that Seiko is going to be on his Rogue to kick this one off with.
Magtheridon opening hand again. This is kind of a holdout from Thijs's last week's strategy where he was focusing on some key matchups where that Magtheridon might end up being very, very impactful, but not really the case against most of the matchups here for Seiko, except potentially the Demon Hunter Mirror if it were to come down to that. But having it here in the opening hand is at least the place where you do want it if it's in the deck, because it means you are one Shard Shatter Mystic away from greatness, but this is not a good matchup for the Magtheridon. Not only can the tokens be Shadow Step to deny the activation altogether, but even if you do tie it all together in one turn, it's just a Blackjack Stunner away from disaster on the other side. So, pretty dead card in this matchup.
And there's also, like, weird issues of how potential Hanar secrets can just completely nail it as well, right? Because if a Hanar turn goes off against, say, just a Magtheridon, you can't even attack with it, because there's about 50 different ways it gets destroyed. So it's really, really tough to pull off here. But the good thing about for Thijs' hand is that all the rest of his hand looks sweet. These are all the cards he wants in the early game, and going 1-drop into 2-drop into arguable 3-drop with the Mana Feeder, of course, looks really, really powerful to me. Whereas Seiko is getting off to a bit of a slower start with his opening hand right now.
Yikes. There might even be a consideration right now to just start Shadow Stepping this One Thief, because if the One Thief were to die here and Seiko finds another dead draw off the top, he might find himself in trouble. So I think he just needs to turn these Shadow Steps into Hearthstone cards, and that is exactly what he's trying to do here. The Arcane Intellect pickup off the first one might have presented an argument that you didn't need to, because even if the One Thief died, you had AI on the following turn to actually find something else to do, but paying this off now into Ancient Mysteries as well off the Shadow Step is huge here for Seiko, and I think I now like preserving the second Shadow Step, because he has so much resource generation now between the Dirty Tricks and the Arcane Intellect.
Yeah, his hand is bad right now, but that is going to change quite dramatically in the near future, which is exactly what he wants. Here though, I'm going to go for just the Mana Feeder. And just a quick glance. Mana Feeder. Seiko, sorry, is playing the 2-2 package for the secret, so doesn't have to worry about an ambush either, which would have looked a little bit unfun with that play, of course. But he knows it is either Dirty Tricks or Plagiarize, and now he knows it is Dirty Tricks.
First time that's come out on stream, and you didn't even do it with a card that fits the cadence, when we learned that basically every single Hearthstone card fits the cadence, Raven. You still managed to get it wrong. Unlucky.
Was it unlucky, or is it just a really weird talent? It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not even mad, I'm impressed.
Yeah. On the other hand, Shard Shatter fits it perfectly. Doesn't necessarily fit this turn perfectly, though. Does it look like a pretty clean Marrow Slicer, if Thijs wants to just get on with his life here, just load up the weapon?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because it's... The load of the weapon I am definitely with. It's whether you swing or not, because the rest of his hand doesn't really scream aggro to me right now.
No.
So it's whether he actually equips and then holds, but then the problem is, guess what, guys? Seiko is running double Cobalt Sticky Finger in his deck.
Yeah.
So if he does this into turn 5 and the Sticky Finger is there, oh, it's so bad. So already, whether these Sticky Fingers are drawn or not, it's making Thijs not have what I would deem the best turn, because I would, in a perfect world, pass without swinging the weapon right now.
And I, with my ridiculous caster vision, was really interested in just taking the bump into the One Thief there to play around the threat of another Shadow Step. But I think, Thijs, having seen the game play out from his perspective, and seen one Shadow Step get used, has no real read that there would be a second one in hand right now. And even with the Shadow Step still in hand for Seiko, Seiko might just be more interested in Shadow Stepping the Cult Neophyte here anyway. So I think 2 free damage is 2 free damage, and Thijs is absolutely right to do what he did there.
Yeah, I agree. And I do also agree with this Shadow Step on the Neophyte, because the problem he's going to have with this Van Cleef is potential Blade Dance, right? So making this turn stronger for Thijs. So why not just make Blade Dance very expensive, which almost guarantees that if it's going to get played, 1, it costs 4, and 2, it's going to force Thijs to swing into the Van Cleef.
That's right. He also has shut off Shard Shatter, well, Consume Magic plus Shard Shatter here as well, just with how expensive he's made everything, which is enormous. That would, of course, be a full clear as well.
Demons.
Is it wild to just Consume Magic here?
You could take 8 and just Shard Shatter?
Sure, one way or the other, mainly because there's... Well, I don't know if you do Shard Shatter, though. Because he has Magtheridon Coin Shard Shatter the turn after.
He has 2, though.
Yeah, but if he only has... oh, wait, no. How many
he has
fragments
4
does he
Soul
have?
Fragments
he still
in
has
his
4.
deck.
Okay, sorry. I thought he had 2. My apologies.
Yeah.
Then yes, either one or the other looks good to me.
Interesting. So it looks like he's going to tank... If he's going to tank 8 anyway, I guess this just makes sense to just go face, right? Because you're only going to tank that 8 once, and then you can deal with it with the Magtheridon on the following turn
100%.
anyway.
Yeah.
This does actually make a lot of sense.
I wanted him to get to here. Have Magtheridon, Coin, Shard Shatter. He clears the board no matter what it looks like, and then has this 12-12. And of course, there are weaknesses to this Magtheridon. You mentioned Stunner specifically, but one, the Coin will actually proc the secret, essentially, right?
Yep.
So it means that the secret's going to be gone at least instantly. Oh, imagine if that was next turn. That would have been sick. Valdris? Is that not insane? Obviously, not going to be good facing down a Magtheridon, but...
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of bad. Valdris is the least bad, I would imagine. I don't think drawing a million cards is necessarily what Seiko wants to be doing in this game, but the other cards do literally nothing for quite some time, so... Wow, okay.
Don't let the door hit you.
He doesn't have a Shadow Step in his hand anymore, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty good.
Seiko showing Blitzchung how it's done. Blackjack Stunner, your own minions.
Yeah, I was just about to say the problem with the Secret Passage was that he's not going to end the turn with any Blackjack Stunners in his hand, but Seiko proved me wrong with that play, and it's going to pay off greatly for him.
It's really smart, right? And Thijs kind of has to just follow the commitment here. I mean, I guess he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to, but why wouldn't you, honestly?
Well, because your opponent just Blackjack Stunnered their own Blackjack Stunner. It's pretty sure they have a plan for it, right? Like, why else would you make that play? It's kind of nonsense. I guess you could argue that, like, it was the only way he had to spend his mana off the Secret Passage, so he just did it anyway.
And also, it requires now Seiko to have a Dirty Tricks in, or another secret in hand, right?
Yes.
Because you do get to prop both secrets this turn. I like it, even with the knowledge of the Blackjack Stunner in hand. I think this is just fine anyway.
He did have the option of just going with the Consume Magic and Shard Shatter and just not playing the Magtheridon, but that does lock up the left-hand side of his hand for basically the entire game if he commits to not playing the Magtheridon. So all things considered, probably pretty reasonable here.
So many options.
I never lie, but I never tell the truth.
Gonna go off with the Hana chain. Now here's the question, Subtle.
No.
Do you want to make the right play? Oh, well, that's a weird response, Sol.
Were you going to ask whether you just believe in the freezing trap?
Well, so it obviously depends what secrets get offered second as well from the freezing trap. But the idea that there was only be Kane, right? That would punish this.
And Demon Companion.
That he doesn't know is there, right? So yes, that is a punish, but
yeah, but you know there's a generated 1-mana spell. You know it's a possibility, and it's 12 damage when you're at 15 health, right? Like there's a risk reward chart, and sure, like you can say, well, it's very, very unlikely that I take 12 here. When you're at 15, 1% is enough to be playing around, right? Because that just ends the game.
Didn't put really any pressure on the board though for Seiko, and with the silence on the Hana, it means that Thijs doesn't even have to worry about that either. And he'll be able to get the some knowledge of what this Hunter secret is now.
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, he just has like weapon go face with a twin slice. Like, I would like the eye beam on the 1-2 actually. I'm gonna go for it. Gonna go for max damage. Okay.
Yeah, I quite like maximizing the damage here from Thijs' perspective. He knows he's kind of losing a long game here just because of the insane amount of resources that he's given over to Seiko. He also knows that he hasn't seen a Kobold Sticky Finger during the last time that he checked for it, and there aren't actually that many new cards in hand that could be a Kobold Sticky Finger, even though the hand has increased massively. A lot of them are Dragon's Horde cards, Plagiarize cards, random spells, things that just outright can't be Kobold Sticky Finger. So I think it's a good opportunity just for Thijs to try and eke out every point of damage he has over the next 2 or 3 turns, because it's not like he has a surplus of damage in hand to be ending this game. I think damage efficiency is very important.
I guess my worry is with these 2 minions on board, although his Shadow Steps have been used, Rogue can make Shadow Steps, right, in some ways. So it's definitely a little bit of a fear, at least.
That's huge.
Imagine this is going to be Blade Dance as well.
Yep. I'd expect to see the Blade Dance here.
Such a beautiful.
Does have to consider all these secrets, though. Yeah, check the counterspell first.
It's worth it, right? It feels a little bit bad, but if he twin slices it, if he Blade Dances into counterspell now, then it's an absolute nightmare.
Yes.
We could see, of course, it's Ice Barrier, so the twin slice would be good anyway.
Yeah, actually, you could argue that if the Blade Dance got counterspelled, then that means there's no Ice Barrier in play, right? So that means that you just smash face for 1 million and you are just setting up lethal. So I actually think it's not the end of the world if the Blade Dance got counterspelled there. I think that's actually pretty decent reasoning from Thijs on his sequencing that turn. Just protecting the second slice might actually end up being more important in terms of pushing damage in the world where that was an Ice Barrier.
Right, so he pushes like 1 extra total damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if that's worth him having the minions up on board, which is very scary, I think. But you raise a good point. Seiko's on low health.
I mean, I think it certainly would be worth it if you start deducting the Ice Barrier health that Seiko has right now. Like, he's at 12. If you deduct that 8, he's at 4. So you are just, like, really cleanly representing lethal with any damage draw off the top. There is, of course, the Warblade swing that's yet to compensate for as well, that you do have to factor in. But, we could see that was Ice Barrier, so I think we are slightly biased in how we're looking at the game. But from Thijs' perspective, with no real knowledge of what that secret was, I think it's reasonable to just say, you know what, if these minions get to hit me once, I don't really care, because I'm probably just racing not Ice Barrier here.
And this is going to come down though from Seiko, and Seiko's making quite the threatening board. Remember, this Lapidary is going to get bounced by the Freezing Trap, but it's not necessarily a bad thing with Thijs' hand, right? He doesn't really have a ton of burst damage, so maybe him getting more, even though it's going to be expensive in the late game, is something.
Could just replay it now?
Oh, Shard Chat is just too good, right?
Yes. But what else do you do?
Could just I-beam Hero Power?
Doesn't set up lethal. I want to set up lethal.
Well, we don't always get what we want, okay? So we could just go, Lapidary Blade Dance, but there's a slight... Is there ever a slight fear? Where
there's a huge fear.
Just that Questing lives and then you're dead?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There is a huge fear. I completely agree with you, yeah. Oh,
Wow.
nightmare!
Insane.
You have to go face. You've just committed to
Insane.
the line now.
And although I completely understand pushing face is great, there's... I think he could have took a turn off.
I'm not sure he can. Doesn't the board just come back like similar size on the next turn, and then you can't dedicate all of your mana to going face? Well, okay. I mean,
You
let's
know
say
two of the cards are Magtheridon and Shard Chatter, right?
Right. But let's say you don't kill the questing. Let's say you do kill the questing. Well, in that world, you're probably not killing the 4/6 or the 5/5, right? So the board is still quite big, no matter what the outcome was.
No, you'd kill it all, right?
Oh, you're talking about going with the Shard Chatter line? Doing something completely different?
Shard Chatter, then
right.
I-Beam and Hero Power kills pretty much everything on the board.
Mm-hmm. Just
And that's what I
Tiger
mean, 'cause
that's
it
left
was a-
alive?
Well, only if it wasn't the weak choice, right?
Right.
Too soon.
If it's the weak choice, you clear the board. If it's not, you don't have to face tank the questing. You can I-Beam it and then push one face. I don't know, it's just interesting. That looked like a good enough turn to hold back one turn and then go face again afterwards. But the board is being refilled right now, and that's all that matters in this game of Hearthstone. That questing's just still alive. Shard Chatter's not active.
It's not active, yeah.
Oh,
That's the other consideration, is that if he didn't do it in that order, he doesn't even necessarily get the damage from the Lapidary, but you kind of have to look at this board state again, right, and say that, well, if Thijs didn't go face on the last turn and this board comes down, like even minus the questing, right, like minus the questing plus a Tiger or whatever the board state ends up being, he still just can't really go face the next turn, right? Like he's still just potentially facing down 2-turn lethal, so I honestly like Thijs' line. I think he just got unlucky with the way that the Blade Dance rolled.
I grow.
yeah, we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. He wouldn't have took 9. He wouldn't have took 9 from a questing. So, yeah, I don't know. Here though, he's managed to deal with the questing with that consume magic, of course, but without the Magtheridon Shard Chatter, then it's looking a little bit rough. He used up a ton of mana to have to I-Beam as well.
Yep.
So 9-10 with Hero Power from Seiko. Imagine that's the turn where Brand just came down.
I mean, imagine your Highlander cards not being active when you have 5 cards left in your deck.
Wait, yeah, what has he got left in?
He has
I don't even know. I can't recall
2
anything.
Pharaoh Cats remaining in his deck.
Oh, those pesky little cats.
Yeah. Feel like we've been trolled all weekend by Pharaoh Cats, not being summoned off Guardian Animals, not being Tundra Rhino'd for lethal, and now locking out the Highlander potential of that Dino Tamer Bran.
Give me a quest.
Lucky's could be a big deal. Oh, no taunt.
No taunt indeed.
Too soon.
Damage wouldn't have been enough anyway. Now we won't have space to play the minion, which is unfortunate. Okay, it was a minion that would have made a difference, but again, if he'd got like, I don't know, any kind of taunt, then maybe if he'd played that in a different slight order, but of course the order in there made sense from Psycho's point, I think. Does mean though that Dino Tamer Brand's active next turn.
Not gonna matter though, Raven. Chaos
No, it
Strike,
is not.
Second Strike, Glaive Bound Adept.
Twin Slice, Second Slice, Kane. The list goes on. Damage is going to be done there. Thijs is going to take game number 1 with this Demon Hunter. And it was, I think that game was made harder than it needed to be, at least in my view. But regardless, Thijs gets the win 1-0 with the Demon Hunter.
I so strongly disagree, Raven. I think
That's fine. We're allowed to disagree.
No, I know.
Okay.
I think Thijs' line is one of the few ways he could actually get out of that, because you've also got to factor in, like, even if we want to debate like the size of the board and how much damage you end up taking on average, whether you have the right to go face on the following turn, if he'd have used the Shard Chatter for his Soul Fragment, he just wouldn't have had the 5 damage from the Lapidary over the course of the game, right? He just would have missed out potentially. And then sure, maybe you could argue like that Twin Slice pickup at the end might have still just got him over the line at the end. But I don't think he would have had any kind of reliable threat of lethal. coming back the other way. So I personally like the lines that the majority of the lines that Thijs took that game, but I think from Seiko's perspective, he probably feels pretty miserable that he took a bold pick with the Dino Tamer brand early on and then was not rewarded from that, because I certainly wasn't looking at it. But again, you have to not be results oriented here and say that actually, on average, that was a smart pick from Seiko. It probably had more impact on the game on average than the Valdris would have done, because it should have been active by that point.
Yes,
and with a large percentage of time, and should have been able to just come down and end the game as long as he had the board space available. So I think Thijs will be, I think Seiko will be cursing his bad fortune a little bit there, that he wasn't just able to get the damage over the line.
Yeah, does mean Thijs is leading 1-0, Zillow, was I trying to say then? 1-0 over for Seiko, of course. This is our first match of the day. We've got plenty more coming up, but for now we are going to go to a break and get ready for our game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We have Seiko versus Thijs continuing here in this series. Thijs currently 1-0 up with a win with his Demon Hunter over Seiko's Rogue. A pretty decent matchup overall for the Demon Hunter, but now we are going to be moving on, of course, into game number 2. And it's going to be now Demon Hunter for Seiko going up against Thijs's Warrior. So this might be where things get a little bit spicy and where Seiko's lineup really kicks into gear.
Sorry, temporarily muted. We're back. It's certainly will start to get a little bit more interesting. But of course, just mentioning that Thijs's Demon Hunter got over the line is something that we didn't really cover in enough detail there, because that's kind of the secondary deck for Thijs that might just be problematic in this series. We saw Yala, for example, have great success just going up against Blyze's Demon Hunter when he didn't actually have Warrior in his lineup, because so much of the anti-Warrior tech, and just in terms of weapon destruction, taunt, and healing, can splash over onto Demon Hunter as well and disrupt their matchup. So in terms of what the thing I always talk about with certain Conquest wins being more important than others, the most important win by far for Thijs in this series is the Warrior, no doubt about it. But Demon Hunter is in second place. So having already got that win over the line for Thijs, I think puts him in a pretty strong position in the series overall.
I agree. I do. It also interests me just how the players are going to approach this, because although Seiko does have a kind of counter Warrior lineup, it's not all in. It's just making all of his decks he was probably already going to bring a little bit better against Warrior. So I do wonder how much actual sort of percentage he puts himself on the series if he loses to Warrior or not. Obviously, it'll be a big loss, don't get me wrong, but it's not as if, oh, well, now my lineup is 4 bad decks, right? And if there's no Warrior to prey on. So we will see, but for now, it is going to be Warrior for Thijs Seiko on this Demon Hunter, and we are going to see those the Cult Neophytes already potentially making an impact, as one is in Seiko's opening hand.
How do you feel about this matchup, by the way, Raven? Because I keep hearing people would say that this is like massively Warrior favored, or at least Warrior favored by a good chunk, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. The more that time has gone on, because I feel like Demon Hunter is better at just landing minions in the early game, and the deck that lands minions in the early game kind of becomes the de facto aggressor in the matchup in a lot of positions.
I actually don't mind this matchup at all for Demon Hunter. It's definitely not my favorite one, because you end up with some floating cards. Shard Shatter, quite awkward to get use out of. Same can be said to an extent with Blade Dance is often 2 mana kill 1 thing, because there's only really normally 1 thing on the board for Warrior at a time anyway. But outside of that, I think the matchup is absolutely fine for Demon Hunter. I don't get too upset. There are some that are better, of course, but Warrior, although can be tough, it's definitely winnable. I wouldn't say Warrior was extremely favored by any means.
Okay.
I guess for me, even looking at this risky skip armor smith, I think it's very easy to say, oh, well, they just gain armor and then you never kill them. Right, but I thought the same with Priest, and we've seen Priest like reset to 30 twice in a game, and the Demon Hunter still wins the game, right? It's a slightly different matchup, because the Warrior, you would imagine...
That?
Yes, it literally happened. It literally happened on a match we cast. So yes, it's true. I can get away with it. But there is a slight difference, of course, where you would imagine in the general scenario, the Warrior is shuffling bombs into the Demon Hunter's deck as well. So the healing is a little bit more impactful for the Demon Hunter side to try and negate the bombs going off, because as always, you do want to be casting Skull, you do want to be drawing a ton of cards. But I think with the addition of this Sticky Finger, even though he's got hold of it right now and he's only playing 1 in his list, this could be enough to actually swing it into, okay, Seiko should win this game, just based off hands.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. We're talking about the matchup in general terms, but with the lists that we're actually looking at, even though I think Thijs does have an advantage, I think this is one of the matchups where the Skipper Armor Smith package is a big win for the deck. I think, you gain and lose a few percentage points in different matchups, whether you're playing like Coerce and Evil Quartermaster or whether you're playing the Pirate package. I think this is one of the matchups where the Pirate package is a big advantage, but the overwhelming advantage of a Cobalt Sticky Finger in Seiko's deck is just by far like the best individual tech card that we're looking at in this match.
And in a weird way, the fact he hasn't needed it ends up being positive too, because instead of like doing any shenanigans with a weapon, he gets to just lapidary and go face for 1 million, and suddenly Thijs is on 6.
He's just dead.
Yeah.
It's turn 5. Everything we've talked about just has not mattered at all, because he's just dead on turn 5.
Well, what's happened, obviously it's looked like a little bit different, but Seiko's basically done the face hunter thing, right? Warrior doesn't actually play small removal well.
Right.
He doesn't play the turns 1 to 5 good removal outside of Brawl, obviously. So you can just get beat up if your opponent plays minions and hits you in the face.
Yeah, and that was very much the point I was alluding to earlier on, where it feels like Demon Hunter does win the board very consistently early on. They just have slightly higher quality in like that 1 through 4 slot in terms of just playing minions out on the board. And if you're able to do that, then you get to be the deck that's going face, right? Because the other deck has to worry about removing your minions to not take too much chip damage, and that's kind of exactly what we've seen pan out here. The Armorsmith Burst has come out, though, giving Thijs a little bit of stability, but Seiko can still clean this up quite nicely. Smart trade into the Armorsmith first to cut down on the armor, and then probably just going to follow this up with Hero Power Panthara.
Yeah, and he gets to just keep on rolling, right? You saw how horrible that turn was for Thijs. Gets to push some more damage. Thijs now only on 11, which is easily doable, considering Seiko's got most of his deck left over. And now Wench Caliber's going to come down, but it doesn't really matter. It's going to get stolen anyway. He's going to trade off one minion, but he's obviously the minion effectively attacks once, right? Because he has to trade his face. So this damage just looks like it's stacking up far too much. I mean, is that just lethal? It is. Oh no, he's one off.
With the armor, the armor's currently keeping him alive, yeah.
But still, he has, what, 5 on the swing if he Chaos Strikes as well? He's going to save the Chaos Strike. It's not lethal, so fair enough, you don't have to push it this turn.
Absolutely.
On board, and bit of a nightmare for Thijs, this one. It feels pretty bad.
Yeah. Does mean that bomb is going into the deck as well, which is a very, very big deal. Ha! Nice and easy. Off the top. Take 5. Seiko squares up the series 1-1, and test number 1 for this slightly unconventional anti-warrior lineup, passed with flying colors for Seiko so far.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, isn't it? Because I think it would be easy to say, oh, well, he just ripped the one sticky finger in his list and won the game. I actually think Seiko would have won whether he had that. If he played a different turn that didn't involve sticky finger, yes, he wouldn't swing as much damage, the bomb wouldn't have gone off, of course, but I think he was in such a commanding position in that game, and Thijs really, from what I can remember of the hand at least, had like brawls and stuff which don't do well when Demon Hunter's just smacking you in the face turn after turn. So I think even though that looked like it was sort of a stolen win there, or at least a secured win with the sticky finger, I think Seiko was just all over that game, and Thijs could not slow him down anywhere near fast enough.
Well, just look at what that card would have been if it wasn't Kobold Sticky Finger, right? It's second Glade-bound Adept. That's what the card is replacing the deck, which that also just seems to win the game there in that position.
Exactly.
Yeah, did not really have a particularly big impact. It was just a very, very aggressive start that Seiko got off to. Basically, perfect curve into Marrow Slicer, into Lapidary that was just way too much damage. And Thijs' hand just kind of got stuck. It was like Cutting Class and Deathwing stuck over on the left-hand side of his hand from his opening. Just didn't really find the answer that he needed. Was forced into the Skipper Armorsmith way too early to really be gaining like game-winning amounts of armor off of it. It was just a rough game for Thijs. It's going to square up the series now.
It's exactly what you see there is exactly why Warrior generally loses to Face Hunter, right? It just does too much too soon for it to really get going. Does look like Seiko's going to be stepping back on his Rogue for game number 3, though, and Thijs is going to move over to his Mage, stepping away from the Warrior, going, okay, you didn't treat me very well that game. That was a bit messy. I'm going to go Mage for now and see how this one line up. But we are going to get this matchup once again, the Rogue versus Mage matchup, where both decks so similar but so different at the same time. Do you have a favorite in this matchup? Which one would you rather be here, Sottle?
In this matchup, I would rather be Thijs, because 2 Kobold Sticky Fingers, I think, impacts this particular iteration of the matchup quite a lot and probably swings the favor a little bit back towards Mage. With default Rogue list versus default Mage list, I think the Rogue is a slight favorite overall, personally. But again, just 2 massively whiffing tech cards. 2 cards that could just fill up your secret passage with absolute garbage if you need to passage and hit something particularly clutch. Like, they can have a massive impact on the way this game will pan out. So I think with those 2 dead cards, probably Thijs favored, but personally I'm a fan of the Rogue in general.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Opening hands here for Seiko, the double One Thief, Shadow Step, Miscreant. Looks like a solid hand for me, but I'm pretty sure with my ultimate Rogue knowledge, it is not going to be a full keep. Might just be looking at Miscreant plus X, do you think here, Sottle?
I would agree. I think One Thief is a very sketchy keep in most scenarios. This is an exception that some people ascribe to, where you can just straight up coin One Thief, One Thief on turn 1, because usually you don't have the clean combo activator for one thief, and it can kind of consume other combo activators that you want for more impactful cards. So I'm actually even a little surprised to see Seiko holding on to one of them here. I personally would have been on board with just the Miscreant Keep. Shadow Step potentially was my second choice, but I think I would have tossed away both One Thieves personally. He just plays it on one. Okay. All right. That's not something that I had in my mind when he's keeping it.
Look at his turn. With the Van Cleef, is he just going to go in?
I mean, if you're going to mulligan into Van Cleef, then obviously you play it on one. Like, that makes so much sense to me now, having seen the mulligan. But was this the plan? I can't imagine this was the plan when he kept it, right? He must have had something else in mind. But of course, with the Van Cleef appearing, the play it on one is very, very obviously correct. I just didn't have time to adapt to the new hand after the mulligan from Seiko, but this is very, very smartly done.
So there are Ray of Frosts, but I do like Thijs taking the time off now, drawing some cards. Just taking 8. 8 is very doable right now. He can take it and be okay. And Devolving Missiles, the one of in Thijs' list, is going to be absolutely clutch here to save him in this game.
Yep. Big draw from Seiko, though, picking up a cheap enough card to combo here with the One Thief, or just having something to do this turn.
Oh, I really like this play, though, from Seiko. I don't know if it's correct in all times, but the fact that now the cat can't easily be killed for the Devolving Missiles to guarantee the hits on Edwin is actually pretty sick.
I don't know, dude. I feel like if my opponent's hand was face up and I could see the Devolving Missiles, I'd still take the 8 damage in that scenario.
Oh, free to the cat.
Instant left.
Value, though.
Wow, his Librams are going to get so cheap this game. Insane.
Just to find some Librams. It's going to be a actually nice way to proc Miscreant at least this turn, because otherwise he has to use like another one thing. Doesn't want to go for it, though.
And that's the interaction I was talking about with the mulligan, right? When you keep One Thief and Miscreant together, you kind of get stuck. Like, one or the other can get stuck in your hand quite easily because you don't really want to use either of them to combo the other, which is why I was advocating for a more aggressive mulligan. But obviously, Seiko's mulligan paid off enormously, even though he did end up getting hit with the Devolving Missiles eventually there.
Here, though, we are back into a more stable game of Hearthstone, at least for now that the Van Cleef's gone. Looks like Thijs is going to just go for a Cyclone. No Sorcerers, of course, but with what, 3 Ray of Frosts, and a Cyclone to generate 3 additional spells with this hand. I think I like it. It's just him getting towards his Mana Giant in the quickest and efficient ways possible.
Volblacky's very nice. 2-1 into a 5-drop here, and hits the rush. That's an insane outcome for Seiko on that turn, especially with how this Arcane Explosion was threatening to line up on this turn for Thijs.
Hey, would have liked the Witchy Lackey for his Sticky Fingers next turn as well. Make it a good minion.
Hey, you're not wrong. Just end up playing like a 6-mana Sunwalker or something instead. Yeah.
I wonder how Thijs is going to do this, because his hand that isn't the Mana Giant doesn't look great. This helps him get there, but the problem with this is it's such it's a bit of a rubbish turn for Thijs, but it's going to make his next turn so much better. I did wonder for a second whether it was ever worth playing the Mana Giant. I think the board would have still looked a little bit too strong to just drop a Mana Giant and pass, basically.
Yeah, I think this turn was actually really strong from Thijs. Like, the fact that he played 3 created by spells, the Arcane Explosion, the Incanter's Flow, and the second half of the Ray of Frost is crucial as well, does mean that he can just have Giant Conjurer's Calling on the following turn, and he at the very least achieved a modicum of board control to force Seiko to potentially do something a little bit reactive and give him the time that he needs from the Giant Conjurers. So I thought that turn was pretty good from Thijs.
Yeah, I guess there's a difference, right? Good with what he has, not the best Hearthstone turn in general.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Blizzard? For Seiko, though, I do like it. Not really necessarily to be cast here, but if there's one thing you're worried about against Mage, especially after seeing some spells played, it is, how do you lose? There's a couple of ways. One, Prime. Another Sorcerer's Apprentice going nuts, but the big one that you're going to struggle with the most, I think, is just this. Which is why I think the Blizzard's going to pay off massively for me.
Well, there's also the Plague of Madness that he discovered right before that as well, right? Which is he still has plenty of health to play with here. So yeah, this is the point in the matchup that you do often reach, where it's like, okay, we've all had our fun, we've played a bunch of 1/1s and understated minions that generated resources for us. Now, guess what? 2 8-drops, deal with it. It's generally the first big threat check of the matchup, where the rogue has to be able to do something pretty powerful in order to keep up. Normally, they're able to do it, but this particular combination with the Batterhead just sweeping everything away, all of the small minions go bye-bye, and the Lucent Bark being the obnoxious taunt in the way of the Plague here. It's a pretty specific role on 8-drops, but it's ended up being pretty massive here for Seiko, and it's forced him into going for a fish play for the Blackjack stunners here, dropping the secret first, and then going digging in the secret passage. That's a huge whiff.
Not good, is it? Not even real playables. That Kobold Sticky Finger coming back to bite him a little bit.
And I hate to say I told you so, but I called out that particular interaction. Just like Secret Passage, you build your deck to make it as powerful as possible. You want every card that you can find off Secret Passage to be immediately impactful. When you have 2 Kobold Sticky Fingers in your deck, that's absolutely something that can happen.
Seiko knows this is coming. The Batterhead farming up the Neophyte. Oh my.
Yo!
Ping your own face, Thijs. You've done it once. You'll do it again.
Doesn't matter the year. 2015, 2020, healthy Thijs, sick Thijs, it doesn't matter. He knows to ping his own face when it's correct. I hope I got that right. It was 2015, right? There's been a lot of years of competitive Hearthstone.
It's just been a lot of years.
It's been a lot of years.
What are we on now? 2000 something?
Was it 312 AD in which Thijs the Greater pinged himself in his own face?
There's just nothing Seiko can do, is there? If he had unlimited mana, he could make a good Hearthstone turn here, but
yeah.
Blizzard plus the Plague starts to get something happening, but it's just not going to be enough. There's no long-term plan. What if you, prep, plagiarize, and plague, right? Hope that Thijs somehow generates and plays a Prime, and that's the way you win. Play the Prime back.
That all seems quite unlikely to happen, Raven.
Would you say Seiko is quite unlikely to win this game?
Let me think. Why, yes, I would.
Right, well, there you go. Sometimes you've got to do unlikely things to win games of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a ping face? That's my question.
Of course there is. Oh my god, the amount of just auto-generation Thijs has here. He can just AFK, play no cards, and he's getting, upwards of probably 9-9, 10-10 of stats on average, just every turn from pinging himself in the face. Oh, absurd.
Turns out 2 mana 6/6s are pretty good, even if they deal 1 damage to your own face there. Thijs going to take a victory, and that was just a rough one, honestly. I think the devolving missiles just gave Thijs the breathing room to then play a normal game of Hearthstone. Get the mage things together, go for the spells. He got the giant conjurers, because if that Van Cleef lives, and it's just Ray of Frost to try and slow it down, well, Thijs probably doesn't have the luxury to set up that. Again, it wasn't a bad turn, just a slower turn to set up for that mana giant into conjurers. There's no luxury there. You're getting hit by an 8/8, you're going to die. So I think we would have seen a lot more go into the response there. So Thijs getting a victory with that mage, but having devolving missiles to thank, I think, for the majority of that one. But it does leave him subtle with this warrior. So Seiko is by no means out yet.
Yeah, just 2 points just to illustrate that, you know, sometimes qualifying for Worlds, being a world champion, you need skill and luck on your side. Is that Thijs, I think, got a bit of both there. In the turn where he set up for the Giant Conjurers, I think was really smart in the way he went about it, just throwing together his Cyclone spells to get the best ball clear he could and setting himself up for that power play on the following turn. But then the specific combination of minions that he hit, because it was Batterhead, which swept up all the small minions, plus the Taunt, which blocked the Plague of Madness. Imagine if that was just like a 5-5 and an 8-8, right? Which sometimes happens off Conjurer's Calling. The small minions tidy up the 5-5, the Plague of Madness clears up the 8-8, and he just doesn't have a Conjurer's Calling target for the following turn anymore. So could be the world of difference, but you could argue it's a bit of good fortune that Thijs earned with his good play on the previous turn.
Right, and we are going to be going into this game number 4 right now, Thijs, on this warrior, and, you know, whether this would have been the go-to option or not for Thijs is kind of moot now, because he has submitted the same lineup. That's just what happened. He doesn't have these contingency plans for his warrior that other players have gone for, whether it's not bring warrior or bring, you know, the Rattlegore Zephyrus kind of stuff going on with the Bloodsworn Mercenary, or a different build full stop. I know some other GMs like submitted Pain Warrior, for example, to mix it up. This might be where he gets punished now, because there's also Cobbled Sticky Finger already in Seiko's hand. So because this is such a standard Bomb Warrior deck, this is exactly what Seiko's aiming for. So let's see if it pays off.
Actually, you really kind of like this hand from Thijs, though. Like, obviously, you have to adjust your expectations on the matchup, and on, you know, most matchups, in any matchup with Bomb Warrior, you want to have Corsair Cash into Wrench Caliber, and you want to get going. That's basically what you want to be doing most of the time. Specifically, the Ankar, when you're playing against Cobalt Sticky Finger decks, I think is super clutch, just because it's a weapon they never really feel like they want to steal from you. They quite often can, because their first Sticky Finger, if they're playing 2, the then swing of the Ankar will draw them their second Sticky Finger a lot of the time. But it does create this dynamic where Thijs can maybe get himself a bit of card draw with the Ankar, and potentially just fight for board in the early game with his Risky Skipper packet, right? And maybe just win board. And if he's able to win board, then suddenly the threat of having his Wrench Caliber stolen away isn't quite as impactful.
Right, and that's the interesting part as well, is if the Wrench Caliber, if the Ankar is stolen, then one Wrench Caliber gets to live and die, which means also Thijs' Horde Pillager that he plays one of in the list will get some value too. Right, it definitely does create some tricky situations. We are, however, going to see the Ankar likely to be used up this turn. There is an upgrade, so Thijs has an option. It's just whether he goes for it. He might be looking at like a Risky Skipper turn instead. He can clear with Risky Skipper, Sky Raider, and Armorsmith.
Can. He still has one Skipper, one Sky Raider, one Horde Pillager left remaining in his deck, so I actually kind of like the upgrade here, if I'm honest.
Does he just want a weapon to die? Because he's got
fair.
5.
Yeah.
He just wants something to be gone so he can Horde Pillager.
It's weird because he didn't actually like have the Horde Pillager at that point though, and it was only a 1 in 3 that he was going to end up drawing it off the swing.
I think it's just an sort of eventuality, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Guess this gives Seiko a bad turn if he does have, or potentially a bad turn if he does have Sticky Finger in his hand.
Yeah, and you have to factor in from Thijs' perspective as well that there is the kept card still in Seiko's hand that he hasn't seen yet, which, you know, more and more with each passing turn, you do develop the read on that it's Sticky Finger. The more turns that you don't see it get played as a keep in the mulligan.
We're going to see Sky General here. This is a bit of a strange turn. Thijs could go digging with Shield Block instead. But he just doesn't have much to do, does he? Oh, he's going to go Horde Pillager, okay.
What more can I ask for?
I imagine it's not going to be upgrade if he is thinking about Sticky Finger, then he wouldn't just upgrade kind of randomly because he has the mana.
Right.
Mummy needs 5 more minutes.
But like you said, the Ankar, regardless, will draw Seiko the second Sticky Finger, and sometimes games are over before the second Wrench Caliber's drawn, especially when Corsair Cash hasn't had much to say this game either.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it the other way as well, right? And say that Thijs currently has 4 copies of Wrench Caliber in his deck in 18 cards, so there's a good chance he's going to get to them relatively quickly.
What if this is just Jandis instead?
That's the dynamic, though. It's what I was talking about at the start, is like, you know, Thijs can sort of test to see if Seiko wants to steal this weapon, and if he doesn't, you can even potentially like start dropping the Krastanov, start dropping the upgrade.
Right.
You know, okay, what about now? Is it big enough for you to want to steal just now?
Oh! Does he ever shadow step the Tarkan? Of course he does.
Wait, he actually did it! Oh no! Oh, the Raven powers.
People should be afraid when I'm casting the games. just saying.
Like, he has 1 lackey in his hand that's now a 4/4. He could have just Shadow Step Jandis and immediately summoned probably 2 4/4s or better.
He's got to just rip Miscreant off the top next turn and it'll be fine.
Does that actually make any sense?
Look at that curve. Pharaoh, Miscreant, Lackey. Look at the power.
Not to mention how much smaller his board is right now.
Plays around Brawl. No. I'm trying, Seiko. I'm defending you.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one.
It's actually a pretty annoying minion, isn't it? Like Bladestorm doesn't cut it because it's actually defending the the Jandis from being picked off by the weapon. So Bladestorm doesn't really work. A little bit frustrating, this 3/7.
I mean, that is a very real point. The Jandis still in play is annoying against Bladestorm, but you also know that your opponent's been swinging Ankar a bunch, so you're pretty confident that they have Risky Skipper in hand, but it's still not a great Risky Skipper board.
Well, yeah, then it's Risky Skipper plus minion to kill a 2/1, so you can Bladestorm a 3/7.
It doesn't work.
Like,
It doesn't work because then you have your own Risky Skipper on board anyway, right? So.
Right, exactly. Go for the trade, it kills off the Barov, of course, which will then, in turn, kill off the other Barov.
Someone's gotta lead the charge.
Yes.
Oh.
That's huge, though. This generated Sticky Finger is everything to Thijs right now.
Oh. Wrench Caliber, go.
Because Thijs now has the ability to load up a 3-charge Wrench Caliber on 1 turn with the upgrade, and then even if Seiko steals it, he doesn't have... Well, okay, he would have the opportunity to steal it and destroy it, so it couldn't be stolen back, because he is specifically rogue. That would be an unlikely play for Seiko to make.
The genius level now from Seiko is go Wrench Caliber, assume your opponent randomly generated a Sticky Finger, let them steal it, and then you just yoink it back. No?
No.
Okay, let's get to the important stuff. Look at the size of this Goblin Lackey.
No, I still think the genius level play would be stealing the Wrench Caliber with your Kobold Sticky Finger and then daggering to overwrite it so it couldn't be stolen back again. I think that's more where the genius would come in.
What now?
Another very resilient board for Bladestorm to deal with here.
Yep.
Literally 2/3/4 means it's going to have to brawl this board, which is okay, but without a follow-up to actually kill the minion that lives. Ice is going to very quickly start to lose out on all this armor.
Ooh, Hanar gives possibilities. Seiko could just rip the passage this turn. Try and look for something to go off with.
First.
That's true, you could look with the Thief, yeah. It's an interesting line as well. Secret synergy, but not the secret synergy he's looking for. There it is, okay.
Oh, nothing really great there, is there? Not against Warrior, at least.
Repentance, look for pack tactics. Like, I think you really want something that actively protects your Hanar here. Didn't get it.
Spellbind and Dirty Tricks. Dirty Tricks isn't even playable because that's the secret he started on, I believe. Unless I blinked and misread.
No, you are correct.
Yeah, imagine freezing into this Deathwing turn. Oh.
Don't let the door hit you.
Very nice.
Yeah, he's just a god. He just loves it.
He loves it, yeah. Once again, Seiko just making sure that the APAC players don't miss the opportunity to blackjack stun their own minions by doing it at every available opportunity.
I like it. Make some notes.
So just Repentance Dirty Tricks is what Seiko has ended up with here.
Thijs has run into that weird point in Warrior that you get to sometimes when you play against a very sort of value-based deck like Rogue when it doesn't run away with an early game, is he has a lot of powerful things, but to make them all work together, it's going to take him like 3 turns, which is a long time. and sort of breaking that down to actually get hold of a good turn right now, it's actually pretty difficult. You can test for the Dirty Tricks now with this Corsair cash. We will get the news that it is Dirty Tricks and not plagiarized, so he can be a little bit more free with the rest of his turn.
I like this. It's a good turn to make your opponent sticky finger, right? Because you know what they really want to be doing is just having another potential Shadow Jeweler Hanar turn. And it's expensive as well. It costs 3 because it got Blackjack stunned. So if they have to spend 5 on a Kobold sticky finger, they're probably not going to be able to also have their Hanar turn. This is good timing from Thijs.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see if this is a Kobold turn, because I think there is value in not just saying, oh, I have Sticky Finger and he's got a weapon, press it. I think there is, because of the Hanar mainly, and even the questing, there is a thought to say, hang on, how could I potentially line this up that could make this super powerful and the board resilient in itself, even to the weapon? It has got 2 charges, though, which I guess is a problem. Maybe if it had 1 charge left, we could talk. With Seiko landing that Bone Wraith, though, it does make even the play we can see of the Sticky Finger it back a little bit worse, because it's just Sticky Finger going to a 2-5. Like, doesn't really feel great, so there is still benefit here for Seiko. He's still pushing a ton of damage, has this Paladin secret still active. And again, like, Thijs has good plays, it's just not enough mana to do everything he wants to do. If he goes for Sticky Finger, then he's just a whole nother turn away from thinking about Boom, thinking about the Blade Storms potentially as well, getting some work done. It's very difficult indeed.
Alright, it's a good pickup though. Does at least give Thijs a little bit of security. I think he'll feel a little bit braver now about playing with his health as a resource here. And drop this upgrade. Start doing Bomb Warrior Plan A. Just shuffle all of those bombs into the deck. He will hope at least that he has a window right now until that second Kobold Sticky Finger appears. There's still 1 remaining in Seiko's deck, of course.
He's taking, what, 8 this turn?
Yep.
I really want Seiko to get this 1 Maker played, just to see what it offers him.
It's fair.
Because it could really change up what the plan is, right?
Actually, technically, Seiko still had 2 copies of Kobold Sticky Finger left because he still has a Shadow Step remaining as well in his deck that he could have had access to there.
Perhaps going to be pretty nice to reduce this Mage Secret down, going to give him more options for the secret pick to follow up with.
Noble sacks the juice.
I actually quite like freezing, yeah.
Yep. As you were talking about on the previous turn, he's seen the Deathwing.
Choose soon.
Yep. Between Dirty Tricks and Redemption there, but because it's not playable this turn as well, I think the Dirty Tricks is just generally more worthwhile.
Drops a backstab there just to buff +1/+1 and push 1 extra damage this turn. Thijs can just about start to stabilize here. Obviously, he is fearful of all of these secrets here being, you know, counterspell, anything else that can mess with his turn. But from our perspective, just Brawl and Bladestorm has a good chance of being able to take the Sports State down.
He has to do it the other way around, though, doesn't he? Which actually potentially makes the Brawler a little bit weird in that he can't guarantee kill this if Questin lives. Wait, let's go down. He swings, he takes 2. From the secret. It's Noble Sacrifice, right?
It is Noble Sacrifice, yes.
Yeah, okay. There's been so many secrets played, it's worth double checking.
I think you still do it though, right? Interesting.
Dead. And he would effectively take 4 if it's Noble, right?
Yep. He doesn't have infinite time. He does have to kind of get on with the plan himself of getting bombs in the deck, getting Dr. Boom down, all that good stuff.
Play the dead thing in. I was wondering whether he was going to Vendetta the 2-1. A little bit overkill, I imagine, but it's like a Bladestorm here from Thijs. He's going to be able to take this down, though, as he knows it's not counterspell. Tested for it last turn, of course.
That's correct.
And this pretty much put Thijs on that second Bladestorm, right? Because at 10 health, it's not feasible to get enough armor to shield slam it. And also, with the Hunter Secret, you just can't Deathwing into this. Because the second it's Freezing Trap, you're dead. And if you've got any other option, it really is going to be that Bladestorm.
Did find this sequencing particularly interesting. Even more so if he's going to swing this turn. Yeah, I think this is really cute, and I actually like doing it this way around. Because you could argue, right, like swing first, put the bomb in the deck, then make him draw the cards. But by doing it this way around, more bombs stay on the deck, stay in the deck on average, which is what you want, right? Because you have the Blastmaster Boom in your hand.
Gonna sit on 7. Could have gone for Galakron, but this preemptively gets boomed down. Very interesting, you know, because he did have Galakron this turn, then risky skipper boom hero power the turn after.
I mean, this just gets 13 damage in play though, and potentially deals with the freezing trap that you know your opponent might have out. Like I love doing it this way around.
Ooh. Deep freeze not playable.
Nope. Seiko understanding he needs defense right now.
Ooh. Okay. Backstab, Vendetta, Rush does kill off the boom.
Yep.
And remember, these lackeys are big.
So many options.
Yes, it has just now, what, 6, 7 turns later, become arguably equivalent to the Jandis, and then better when the next lackey comes down.
All part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop play drides, I believe. Yep, in the deck.
Yep.
Deathwing, okay. As if we've not seen enough Deathwings over the past day and a half, sort of.
Indeed.
Really good, though. These lackeys having extra health is huge for these bombs, honestly.
Oh, the Armor Smith draw, Raven! Utterly insane.
Yeah, that's going to gain him a good chunk of health. Especially now that Seiko's on low resources, right?
I wonder.
Like, this might be a point in the game where you think you can outlast the rogue.
That's right.
Made to fit.
Thijs now can play the Armor Smith, freeze one of his bots. We know it's the freeze. He still has some information to dig through, but he probably suspects Freezing Trap and does get the news. Now he still wants one of these trades to happen. Yeah, I like this. This trade always happens. Try and soften up some of that damage on the other minions. Okay, close enough. Now it might not even be a skipper turn with the way that these bomb chains are going. If you can continue to attack into 1 health minions, you should probably just do so.
She'll 4 to the face.
Oh, sniped!
These bombs are making the absolute world of difference right now.
Yep.
And now it's just killable with Wrench Caliber. Oh, wow. It's going to go up with the Sky General. It's looking rough here for Seiko. He does still have the Proto Drake, though, which is nothing to be... Oh, he tries. Does give Seiko a Wrench Caliber as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a little bit... He knew that was Play Dries, right? Because he played both natural Dirty Tricks?
I believe so, yeah. I think that's the last remaining secret in the deck. Well, both copies of Plagiarize were the last remaining secrets in the deck, yeah.
Because that Dirty Tricks in his hand is when he took off Hanar, right?
That's right, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I wonder.
Obviously, it's very easy to lose track, though, when, you know,
Yeah.
15 secrets have been played over the course of the game from Shadow Jeweler Hanar.
Does he have anything left that's relevant to deal with this Armor Smith? Another Vendetta, maybe?
He does not have Vendetta. He does have one Thief, which can find an answer. He also has a Blackjack Stunner left, which can be an answer.
Or actually, like, what if he just... It's frustrating, right? Because the Drake looks insane. Just because of the minion it is. But that means he can't get Wrench Caliber swinging. I think getting the Wrench Caliber cooking this turn is very important. So it looks like Seiko is just going to make the mirror turn. Actually, you don't often actually see this, where the Plagiarize turn equates to an exact mirror opposite
Yes.
turn.
It's usually a sign that, like, you've potentially done something wrong into their Plagiarize, right? Because you shouldn't really ever give your opponent that option, where they're...
A full Hearthstone turn, yeah.
Yes. But now there's an Armor Smith living on board for Thijs to have a full turn of fun with this risky skipper if he wants it. It does look pretty sick with the Krastenov here.
I can even squeeze the bomb in.
Now?
What if it's just Deathwing instead?
I feel like gaining armor is priority number one. Like, Thijs has kind of already won this game as long as he survives until the end of it. Because there's 4 bombs in Seiko's deck already. There's about to be 5. So all he has to do is wait.
It's true. Armor Smith still living is actually a little bit annoying here for Thijs, isn't it? If that bomb would have picked it off, that would have been huge.
Yep.
They'll still end the turn with the Armor Smith of his own still standing, though. Which is, of course, a big deal. Probably not going to bother with that cutting class right now to draw bombs, but here the bombs start coming for Seiko. Number 1.
Still 4 more remaining after this as well, which means not only is Seiko just being threatened with lethal on every single draw step, but it also makes his secret passage completely miserable. Like, the bombs don't detonate when you draw them off secret passage, but you still draw them. They're still just the cards that you end up with off your secret passage, meaning that you take away the option for doing anything else. Does he still have to go for it? Like, he needs to hit the sticky finger, right?
I wonder.
And how does he address the rest of the board?
I mean, he could just kill the Armor Smith, bounce the Krastenov and just play the Drake. Hey, it's not great, but the Drake's a really powerful minion on board, right? Is that
Cleave? Shadow
Step.
Bomb.
Just naming cards.
Sticky finger, he hits it!
That's it! Into Shadow Step the 1-2. Van Cleave.
Oh my god, that turn is so insane, Raven.
The Brotherhood
Did he Shadow Step? Didn't, okay.
He wants more cards going back in his deck, right? That's the reason. He doesn't want to spend those cards because then he would just have a deck that was, what, 60% bombs on the following turn?
The Shield Slam, though.
Also
Has to be the Galacron.
Also gives him the opportunity to draw Shadow Step when he just potentially has an impactful minion on board here. But you're right in that the Shield Slam is a number 1 thing here in terms of keeping Thijs in this. Nice! Okay.
What? I guess he knows there's a dragon.
1, 2...
That's game.
2 out of 5. Okay, dodges.
Plagiarize.
2 bombs left remaining. Seiko now has to end this game with a 50-50 lethal in his deck.
Yeah, none of this is going to matter because we can see Galakron is in hand for Thijs.
Yep. That does now mean there are 3 bombs in Thijs' deck exactly. For a 1, 2, 3 for exactly 15. Thijs dodges. Wow. And it means he does get over the line. The Bomb Warrior is able to find a way through the still anti-Bomb Warrior lineup, but not as aggressively anti-Bomb Warrior as we saw from Yala yesterday. But still, the Bomb Warrior was able to find a way. And I think that's the risk you take, right? Like, that's the dynamic of the series, is that the Bomb Warrior has more of a chance to get a win against Seiko's lineup, but Seiko's lineup has a much greater chance to beat other decks because they are fundamentally just good Hearthstone decks with extra weapon destruction thrown in them. But that's the percentage you lose when, you know, you're playing a bad matchup, but with a couple of tech cards trying to compensate that, because you can see all the reasons why that is a pretty bad matchup overall. And the removal is there, the stabilization is there, the damage is there, even if you're able to destroy a couple of the weapons. And I think in the end, Thijs comes out a deserved winner in that one.
Yeah, ends up coming out on top, and he's going to be facing his teammate RDU in the winners part of this Group A. And it's a huge deal. The winner is going to go on to tomorrow, which is the final day, and that means they continue to have a chance at becoming a World Championship competitor going in there. And it would be a big deal even if either of these 2 players made it to Worlds, right? Thijs, of course, because of his incredibly storied history as a professional Hearthstone player, and the same set of RDU with having come so close so many times to getting to a World Championship but not quite making it. Either way would be huge. But this does not spell the end of Seiko today either. He is going to be going down to that elimination match, who will face Boston, and if he wins, he can continue to fight back. We did see